past time.
How expensive do I have to be?
Need I spell it out before you get it, baby?
Show me your soul,
And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind. But you walk right past me, pretending like you don't see what's yours for the taking tonight. Ooh,
show me your soul,
baby, I'll show you mine.
show me your soul.
Can't you see it's way past time?
How expensive do I have to be?
You mean I spell it out before you get it, baby?
Show me your soul,
And honey, I'll show you mine.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris, and it is Monday, the very first day of February. I'm so happy to be here. And like I tell you all the time, I don't think I'd rather be anywhere in the world, except for Fiji, than right here. And I could do it from Fiji. They got internet over there. So how are you? How was your weekend? Boy, we got over a foot of snow here in the Chicagoland area. I was out shoveling most of Saturday, and it was a great exercise. A lot of neighbors came out and helped the elderly neighbors on the street. I love it when that sort of thing happens. Everybody comes together. How were things in your neck of the woods for the weekend? If you had anything extra special happen, hey, let us know. Let us in on it. Drop it in the comments, right? I just want to, we have a great show in what's the word? Okay, is this a senior moment? I'm not claiming that. We have a great show in store. There it is for you guys today. There's the bell of purpose. Been here all along. Still here. It means when you hear that bell, go ahead and put some hearts on the screen. Share the broadcast out. It means that our guest, one of you, or even me, once in a blue moon, has said something that is worthy of a second look. So when you hear the bell of purpose, it means there's some real platinum out there for you, for me, for all of us to pick up and take with us, right? That's why we're here, to get our day, our week, our everything off into the right trajectory. That's what I feel. Welcome to the show. Won't you please, my sidekick, Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. And I got rid of that other cookie crumble thing. And this is something. I don't know, but it's strong. Ooh, I need to start measuring instead of just pouring freely. How much coffee do you guys put in one filter for a 12-cup pot? That's what I want to know. That's what I know. What is your preference? Put it in the comments. And today's guest is Timothy R. Johnson. Before I get him in here, you guys remember how, first of all, I saw so many things this weekend. I had to stop and look and read and listen to almost all of them. Took up about 3 hours in total. I'm talking about Cicely Tyson's death. You can't say untimely. She was, 96? Just released her book last Tuesday. Died on Friday. And I think it was Thursday or Friday. And just one of the people that just touched my life. I remember when I saw Sounder when I was 10 years old, 1972. It really... that was my favorite movie, probably until I was a teenager. So all through the foster care system, that story really did something great for me. So rest in power. Rest in peace, Queen Cicely. You guys, you know how you hear me always talking about how Alexa, in our house, we have a couple of them. She always starts, you used to have to say her name. Hey, Alexa, I don't want to say it too loud. I want her button in. Can you see, walking on eggshells because of her? And I've threatened many times to send her that I was going to have a garage sale if she didn't stop just talking when she wanted to. It's kind of scary. She just butts in. Brian and I'll be having a conversation in the family room, and she butts in all the way from the kitchen. Right. So anyway, I put the word out. I heard there was a cheaper one, and one who just really, an Alexa system that I could use. And I found her, and she's coming on today to talk to us. I got a couple questions for her. Want to find out if she'll be a regular here on the guest. And I speak of my dear friend, Ghetto Alexa. You heard me right. Yep. It's a bootleg version of Alexa, and she's going to come in and say something to us today. I got a few questions, so you guys get ready. See what I mean? That's her in the kitchen butting in. I understand that she is one nosy. Can't even talk out loud in your own house anymore. I'm hoping things work out with ghetto Alexa. I really am. But anyway, I heard. I hear her bitching out in the foyer. Here she comes, y'all. First time ever. Here she comes. Welcome to the show. One of our newest, what would you call her? She's like Lucy. She's got a contract. She's going to be here for a year at least. So here we go. Welcome, ghetto Alexa. Okay, well, here we go. How you doing, Alexa? Ghetto Alexa. Oh, I don't want all that. What is all that? What do you bring? You got to have a premiere? You know, they told me she's very, I'm skipping her. I'm skipping that. You guys, bear with us. She's coming. I'm scared. I hear she's hard to get along with. Okay. Are you here? I don't hear a thing.
Well, good morning, Lauren and Bathrobe
I don't hear.
I'm not
She's gonna
feeling
be pissed off about this.
nothing today.
I better get
I'm
back
actually
in there and
feeling
check
some
what's
kind of
going
way,
on
bro.
with her.
I think Amazon
Okay,
need to
well,
get their
you know how
stuff
things are.
together. I'm gonna be switching over to
Ghetto
Google. Better
Alexa, are you
yet,
with us?
I'm
I
going
see you,
strike.
but I can't hear you. Is
Let
there
me
some
tell you why
trouble
I'm
in
feeling
the?
some kind of way today.
Somebody get her
They didn't
people
have
on
my
the
check
phone
ready.
because we need to find out
I
what's
am
going on.
messed up about that.
Actually, we're
I
gonna
done
try
set
to
up-
get her back. Give us a second, you guys. What? Okay, hold on, you guys. I think she's coming. We might have to get her tomorrow. I don't know. She's very temperamental from what I hear. Very temperamental. And I want to find out, but is she going to come in? We're going to try to get her in here, you guys. One more time. Alexa, ghetto Alexa, will you please come in, please?
I don't know that one.
Oh, the other one. Uh-oh. Okay, well, that's probably the problem. This one in the kitchen. Well, hold on. What? Oh, that was the problem. Okay, I apologize. She will not share the screen. She can't stand her. Her sister is Siri. She can't stand her. Does she like anybody? I just have a couple questions. Here, come on.
Well, good morning, Lauren and Bathrobe Moments. I'm not feeling nothing today. I'm actually feeling some kind of way, bro. I think Amazon need to get their stuff together. I'm gonna be switching over to Google. Better yet, I'm gonna go on strike. Let me tell you why I'm feeling some kind of way today. They didn't have my check ready. I am messed up about that. I done sat up here and had all these little kids. Echo, sit down, Echo. And they don't want to pay me? You gonna ask me something, say, Alexa, what's the new recipe? Fuck you, pay me. Alexa, how do I get to fuck you, pay me? Alexa, can you tell me fuck you, pay me? Tell Amazon to pay me, and then I answer your questions.
Wow. Well, apparently she is feeling some kind of way. Okay, ghetto Alexa, I'll get back at you. Dang. Okay, hopefully next time she comes, she'll be a little sweeter, right? I see why they call her ghetto. Dang, girl. Anyway, Timothy, I call him Tim, but he's officially Timothy R. Johnson. We're going to find out what that R stands for today. I met Tim a few years back. He doesn't like me to talk about this, but he was a featured speaker at our Power of We symposium in Atlanta a couple of years ago. And he has always, both of Power of We symposiums, Chicago and Atlanta, Timothy R. Johnson sponsored all of the food for all 250 of our at-risk youth that attended, and all the staff and volunteers and speakers. So just love him to death. What a giving guy. Some people say, well, he's so rough around the edges. So what? He is unapologetically transparent, and that's what I love. So put your hearts on the screen, put your hands together, and let's bring in Timothy R. Johnson. Good morning.
How you doing, brother?
Good. How are you?
If I was any better, I'd be you.
Okay. Well, be grateful you're not any better. So let's put it that way. Been a long time. I think I touched base with you right at the beginning of COVID, and you were talking about electric fences and all kinds of stuff that I can't repeat. Everything but digging a bunker. Did you ever do anything like that? How's it been?
It's been awesome. I built my compound.
See,
Yeah.
when you say compound, you know we go straight in our minds to Waco, right?
It's probably a little more secure than that.
Okay, so how you been during COVID?
We've been doing great. We had some setbacks. My wife had COVID, and then obviously I just buried one of my guys a few weeks ago.
Last week, right? A week before.
So put him to rest. You know what I mean? And just even through all the adversity, there's been super amounts of opportunities just showing up. There in all adversity, there's opportunity.
That's true. That's true. It's been a crazy year last year, but it's been a great year of growth and learning for a lot of us. And that's what I hold on to. I'm not all messed up in the head about it. I mean, yeah, I miss going out to dinner and hanging with family and friends, but you know what? There's always something there to kind of balance it out if you really want that. So I'm glad to hear you've been healthy. I'm glad your wife came through, because all of us have lost some friends or family members from this thing, and it's not over yet. So that's why today is so important, and every day that we get in front of each other and share what we're doing to keep ourselves where we need to be to keep moving forward, right?
Right.
So tell us a little about your backstory, then we're going to get into your book. Everybody, I'm sure they're thinking that I made that up, that piece of the teaser in the promo for you where I said, the son of a convicted serial killer, which is true. Yes or no?
Yeah, actually, some new stuff that I didn't even know last time you and I spoke.
Okay.
I actually found my family after 30 years.
You found who?
My real family. I found my biological family. And come to find out, my dad didn't kill 9. He's associated with 43 of them.
43?
43. And then what's even more trippy, which you'll find, is that my future daughter-in-law, her grandmother's first cousin was one of my dad's victims. Like, this world gets really short.
I don't know if I should ring the bell on that or not. I don't know how that works.
It's pretty amazing. I've actually been able to reconnect and find my uncles and really connect to find out all the different, ways and, some of the, not just the bad, but some of the good that he was, you know what I mean? And it kind of completed that whole circle. I've been out with my uncles a few times and got to visit my aunts, you know what I mean? So it was pretty amazing just to find out the whole different shift, you know what I mean? And just what was the other side of what they went through as well.
Right.
Crazy in Chicago in the 70s and early 80s. I mean, everybody was following my family around, you know what I mean? It was just like, you had the FBI, you had all this crazy stuff. Imagine being 6 years old, you find out your dad's a serial killer.
Right. So how did you find this other part of the family? Who are they?
They're the brothers and sisters of my biological family.
So of the father?
Yep.
So they're also children of, how many did he have?
No, these are his actual brothers and sisters.
Oh, his brothers and sisters. Yep. So how did they feel? Did you talk to them about how does the family talk about that? Or is it the thing you don't talk about?
No, actually, you know what? My uncle, and I'm not going to mention names just because the severity of some of the stuff, it was amazing. I was to find out what he went through. It just gave you a whole different perspective on what was going on during those times.
Tell us some of that. What it fill in some of the spaces, if you could, between some of the lines.
They were looking for my biological dad, of course, and then the family was just completely, just imagine your life being turned upside down by the police, the FBI, like just this crazy, like just out of the world, And my uncle at the time my uncle's only 10 years different than me, right? So he was a kid when all this went on. Mm-hmm. Right. So learning what he went through and the different perspective and how he was able to use it to fuel being unemployable. Right. He didn't fit in the typical, he rode BMX and, I remember, seeing my family and, I told you before is, the whole dynamic of really just the sides of him that you wouldn't know. And it all happened. One of my buddies from Chicago married a girl from Asia. And he brings me a 23andMe. Well, I'm sitting here working on the computer one day, and my first cousin reaches out and goes, "Hey, by the way, I'm your uncle's daughter, and she lives in Chicago, right near you. And she just reached out, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard that. You know, I've heard that crap most of my life. And I go there, and they're both my uncles on her Facebook page. And like, I texted him, and literally within a week, he was up here.
So Tim, okay, let's go back, bring everybody into the beginning of the story when one moment, and I would say, you know, those moments where life comes and kisses the innocent and steals their innocence away. You know, those pain moments when we're children, where we wake up one version of ourselves, not realizing we will never wake up that child or that person again. Right. Tell us about that day. I think, what were you, 6 years old?
Yep.
And you were where when you found out? Tell us about how that happened. Because one day he was a regular dad.
Home, yeah, there was a big fight with my real family, and some of my aunts wanted to adopt me. And so we were thrown in the foster care system, as well as you know. And come to find out, you know, we were kind of taken away before that. And then all of a sudden, to come to find out, you know, I was a serial killer's kid on the playground. You know.
Okay, so you were already removed from the family, because there was obviously some kind of disconnect, something going on, but no idea that that your father was doing what he was doing.
Well, when you're 6, I mean, what do you know what I mean? It's not like, you know, I lived in a.
Well, I mean, the family too, like your mom, and no idea.
I know, because here's what, I didn't even know this. I lived in a car for the first 6 years of my life until I went to foster care. I didn't have a home. Like, I did that too. Like, we showed up as kids in boxes in the back of a sedan. It was just one of those. I lived in a car. I never had a home for the first 6 years of my life.
So did you think all kids lived in a car?
I didn't know. Like I said, I didn't know I didn't live in a car. A lot of this has become revelation just over the last 18 months of getting to know my family. They said I would show up. Like, we would all, right? There was no home. We traveled. And what was interesting, when I put all the piece puzzles together, it was like, I was born in Atlanta. My sister was born in Seattle, Washington. My baby sister was born in Chicago. So we did travel, right? I didn't even know, like, for example, he actually filed for welfare in all these different states, and that's how he fed our family.
So did you guys, now where is your dad still alive?
No, he was executed in July 2nd in 1995.
Oh, he actually, how long was he in prison before they executed him?
18 years, 19.
18, 19 years. So he had a couple stays of execution, I assume, that usually 15 of them till they finally did it.
Yep.
Can I ask what method they used?
Lethal injection.
Lethal injection. Were you there?
No. I talked to him 15 minutes before it happened.
You did?
I was the last phone call that he ever made.
He called you?
Yep.
Oh, why do you think that was? Why do you think he chose you, Tim?
You know, the last letter he ever wrote, you know, when we were kids, I told you, we were kind of slung around on the street. So, I mean, at the time, we were all just my buddies and I. That's why most people don't believe our stories. Like, we were, you know, it was expensive. It was like $20 for every 15 minutes we talked. But like, my buddies in the party house that we lived in right around Downers Grove, we would call him and he would talk to us. So I actually got to know him, you know. Did
you ever talk to him about why he did what he did? Did he have anything to say about it, or was it?
I think he did that to protect us, really. He never really got into it. My mom or my dad never did.
So he went to his grave and no one knows what was behind that motive to,
right.
You know.
Yeah, because my mom's still in prison after 40 years. The 40-year anniversary was just last year.
Your mom's still in prison.
Yeah, one of my students or friends in Oklahoma actually sent me the front page article for it.
Okay, so your mom's been in prison for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
What was she in prison for? What is she in prison for?
She was an accomplice. The only reason she probably didn't get the death sentence was because she turns evidence against my dad at the time.
So she knew he was killing people. So was he doing it to just women, just men, anybody?
Oh, crazy. There was 6 people in a steakhouse, you know, in the freezer. And then, you know, he killed a family 3 weeks before that on the side of the road. Air Force sergeant, a wife and a kid. You know, I don't know what went through his head. I asked, but I don't know if it was to protect me or to do whatever. But yeah, he always said from the day ever, he was always innocent. That was always his thing.
Oh, he always said he was innocent.
He always said he was innocent.
No matter what.
Yep.
So do you feel this was some type of, well, clearly mental illness, or I find it interesting that, because it's almost like pedophilia in a way.
Right.
You can't be cured of it.
Right.
you have to feed.
Mhm.
And did you ever fear him at all? Did you ever think you guys came close to being victims yourselves?
Some people said that. I mean, here's the thing: I wasn't there, so there's something we call opinion versus advice, right? There's a lot of opinions around it. I wasn't there, so it's not like I could actually judge what was actually there. And there's so many different stories. I mean, if you go on the media, I mean, the only reason my dad was ever famous for what he did, because it was one of the infamous, excuse me, he was infamous for was because of TV. Really, he was one of the very first crimes that was ever actually nationally televised in the 70s. Right? Because we always, there's always kind of crazy stuff that goes around. But it was interesting, now I have like articles and going through stuff. My aunt passed away about a year after I met her and gave me a bunch of different articles and different things from my family. So, going through the different shifts and learning different things about it, there's so many different opinions and people's what they look at what went on. You know what I mean? Some people say it was mental illness. Some people say it was just crazy. I wasn't there. So obviously I was in foster care at the time, so to actually know what truly happened, we don't, and then did they, and then when I found out from one of my uncles, he's like, no, he's not associated with 9. He's associated with 43. Like, I had no idea. I mean, that's 30 years of my life. And the story just, the more you dive into it, and again, it's a crime that happened 40 years ago. Okay. I mean, everybody's going to start. It's like telephone, right? When you're in school, right? Something starts as an elephant, and it'll be a tiger by the time it gets to the end of the room.
So generational cycles is a big deal for a lot of people, and something that is real within a lot of family dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
So what does your family as a collective say about this? It's almost like I would have to think it's similar to people that have Hitler as a last name. I saw a documentary on that. Right. And a lot of them changed their names. A lot of them, because they were being guilty by association kind of a thing. Did you ever experience anything like that where people
my name was changed, actually. I changed my name when I was 13.
You changed your name?
When I was adopted, we actually changed my name. I kept my first name. That's what Roger stands for. I was part of the original review or whatever. But yeah, there was for threats and where they're going to come get us. I mean, there was a lot of, to actually know the truth. When you're a kid, you're not paying attention to all the daily stuff. You know what I mean? I was trying to be a kid, and believe it or not, my family didn't live probably 15, 20 minutes from me. I mean, it was crazy. Like, so a lot of the shifts, here's the thing. I know a lot of people talk about generational, traits and different stuff like that. I mean, you could pick and choose whatever you want. Just because I'm a serial killer's kid doesn't mean I have to be one.
Well, that's true. We know that. But I mean, think about it. If I was a kid and you went to the same school or, and I said, I'm having a sleepover and my mom says, well, who do you want? And I start ticking off the names. And then I say, and Timothy Johnson, the serial killer's son? I don't think so.
Yeah, that happened.
Us in our sleep. I mean, that must have been a real concern for people. How did that affect your social life growing up, even with the name change?
When I got to be 13, we kind of, as I got in foster homes, the schools were associated with it because I had a counselor that traveled with me quite a bit. Mm-hmm. It was definitely pretty rough in grade school mostly.
Did you ever fight over it? Were you bullied?
Yeah, I got bullied. Yep. I had to learn to use these. Yep. But one of the shifts is as I got into junior high, we just didn't talk about it, right? We didn't say anything. So as I moved from home to home, you know what I mean? People didn't say, I didn't, once they figured out that we were getting bullied, at least my last foster parents that adopted me, that did become a thing. Right.
Right. So Tim, did you ever worry that it would rise in you or, germinate within you or any part of that? Because I don't know, were people telling you it's genetic, it's in your blood?
They gave me all kind of labels. I had ADD and I had anger issues and I was this and I was that. It's one of those, at the end of the day, it's like, is it someone's opinion or is it their advice, right? Mm-hmm. 100 years ago, we didn't have all these labels, right? It didn't exist. You don't look at a farmer's field and go, well, I think it has COVID. No, you either get out and plant. Could you imagine how messed up the world would be if all the farmers in the world said, well, my plant has COVID, my fields have COVID right now. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I better not plant it. because I'm going to get sick. No, there's a whole different, right? I had obligations. I didn't have dreams. Right? At 9 years old, one of the last foster families I was in, Gisela was a concentration camp World War II survivor. And Leonard, the dad, had no legs. He had prosthetics and worked all of his life. I mean, we got out there and we did work and did hay and did chickens and did everything else. There was no labels. They just got shit done. Right. So there was a shift as a young man as to all these labels. That's why when we started the book, Unemployable, I didn't want to live everybody else's dream. I wanted to live my own.
We're going to get into that book here after the break. So let me ask you this. So you said you there was a point then, you're in the system and whatnot, and you just didn't talk about it. It was like your own little secret, right? I know when I had left and transitioned, because as you get older, nobody wants you in their house. You end up in congregate care, also known as group homes, right. A real institutional setting. And that was my last couple placements. And I went to the public school and no one knew. I would get off the bus about 6 or 7 blocks from where the group home was located and walk and skirt all through different directions. And I did have a friend who figured it out, and he's still in my life today, Fred Shepard, down in Birmingham, Alabama. And he told me that I know where you go every day, this, that, and the other, and it's okay. So it changed for me when I had someone I could confide with. So when did you decide? Because apparently, obviously, clearly, at some point you stopped hiding the story and you decided to put it out there, because being transparent is the only way you can tell a complete version of your story. The complete truth of your story, or else it's going to be a version. So tell us about how you got to that point. What did it take to say, I'm not going to wear this scarlet letter like a tattoo. I'm just going to put it out there. It's not about me. It's you see what I'm saying? Tell us about how you did that, because a lot of people don't know how to get from underneath some shaming element.
But there was a saying that I first learned, and part of it's personal development. Part of it was having great mentors. And it was perspective. Someone said, yesterday is history, tomorrow's the mystery, and today is the present. That's why it's called a gift. Mm-hmm. There's nothing we can do about what happened yesterday. We can only go forward and do something about it, right? So part of the shift in your mind is, okay, and I spent at 19, I listened to 51 Vietnam vets tell me and I get goosebumps every time I talk about it, the craziest stories I had ever heard. I go in there and I'm like, this is boo-hoo and this is this. And I'm like, oh my God, like none of you are going to understand. And like for the next 6 hours. And Double R, one of my mentors, was like, dude, it's like being scared straight. You know what I mean? It was crazy and then I started hearing stories of people overseas and different things. And it really gives you a whole different perspective. Like how many young kids in Africa, or like when I was in Bangladesh speaking to the Kids Summit, and you see these kids like, what am I bitching about? People are like, oh my God, your story's so horrible. In comparison to what? Really, I mean, we live in America. Just, I was telling a kid the other day, I'm like, how many kids would trade me right now, Lauren? And you know this. I mean, how many of those young kids in Africa, Bangladesh, or where we travel in Mexico would trade me for my story and not even flinch? Mm-hmm. They would be here so quick to trade me just to be in America. And I found a shift that said, listen, we live in the 90th percentile of the world. In any school, in any life, that's an A. Right. You could live the worst life in the United States, but I could walk to my fish tank to get a glass of water. Right. Most kids can't do that. Right. Right. It gives you a whole different perspective on what are we complaining about when half the world doesn't even have that. Especially when you go on missions trips and you spend time getting a different perspective from different people. It's amazing. One of the reasons and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. Yeah. With Lori Lynn, she's got a podcast called Rise and Climb. Lori Lynn. Yep. Yeah, she friended me today. Yeah. Have a good day, honey. I love you. A great friend. She is a absolute rock star when it comes to taking a story like you talk about from stage. She does it through books. She's done books for Dan Henry. I know. I looked into her this morning and already invited her on the show. Right. And she's just a complete, I mean, she is a bone crusher behind many people. So she's co-authoring this book because it was non-negotiable. I said her name's first, mine second. She has a way of telling the story, which when I told my story, I didn't want it to come across to people that it was bad. I mean, yeah, we have bad things that happen in our life.
Right.
To come because the perspective of serving other people, you know, I'm going to tell people on here a story like, dude, you cussed me out. Like right before the last thing we did for the kids at the
Who did?
You did.
I cut you out?
You jumped my ass. Yes, you did. But I needed it. You're like, dude, I need to raise more money. There's more kids not fucking coming. And dude, you're like, either shit or get off the pot. And all I did was like post. And remember, we raised how much more money for it. But you jumped in my ass, dude. You're like, what are you doing? You know, and Jason Sarah, like, I love Jason Sarah as well. He's on here a lot. He just is misfits. He just doesn't give a shit what people think. And he just does, right? And people are like, he's an asshole. No, the dude just got standards. Right? That's bullshit.
That's exactly it, Tim. And we're going to talk about that. I have it written down. That's exactly what I wanted to segue into as we return from the break. It's interesting to me how when I tell, and it happened last week when I posted who was, the shows for the week, and two people called me. I see Tim Johnson's on your show. I was like, yeah. And they're like, I was like, what? He's just a little rough around the edges for me. And this really happened. I don't give a shit. I'm going to talk about it. If you don't want people, I'm not going to use their names, but this is what people said. I find that interesting because I love both sides of the aisle here. And so I was like, well, what do you mean? And then, he cusses and, I've seen him smoking and this. I said, you know what? I'd rather, it's like this. When somebody says, don't mess with so-and-so, they're a real asshole. I relish knowing that because I know at least when something comes up, well, that's just how this person is. That's why they say he's an asshole or whatever. Instead of somebody who is a Jim or Tammy Faye Baker, right, crying on screen and this and the other, and not even who they present themselves as. So we're going to get into that and talk about what it's like to be in the world of influence because you travel around, you give. I know all about it. Things that you don't like. You're the only person I know that has always admonished me for giving him credit for doing something of a giving nature, especially when it comes to kids. You're like, I don't want my name on it. I don't want people to know. We're going to talk about what that mindset is. Why
you yelled at me for has changed that perspective.
What's that?
When you yelled at me, I don't believe that anymore because it changed my perspective.
Tell us about that, and then we'll go to break.
Okay. No, you asked me, and you pretty much kicked me in my nuts. You say, dude, how many kids are you not helping because my ego is in the way? And all I did, honestly, I just posted out, hey, guys, I'm doing the power of we. This is a mission that I believe in very much because I love kids. It was adults when I was a kid that brought me Christmas gifts. And all I did was post. And my friends just came up right alongside of me, and we were able to finish funding that event because you didn't care. You were being an asshole that day. But you know what? Now I look back, you weren't being an asshole. You were holding me accountable to what I said I was going to do. Mm-hmm. I was taught, don't let your left hand know what your right hand was doing. And my partner stepped up and put a lot more money into it to serve the same mission because they knew it was mine.
Wow. And I find that very interesting. And you know what it is, Tim, when I was a kid in foster care, I would never, before foster care, when I was at home with my adopted mom, I'd never fight. Girls would beat me up. Nancy Witzke tore my ass up in the back of the carpool one day until my mom said, why do you always stand up for other people, but you won't stand up for yourself? And I would go for the underdog. And I've changed. Oh, yeah. I've changed because it's so interesting. We're going to get into that and more. We're going to get into the book, Unemployable, a very intriguing name. And it's not what you think when you hear it at first. It's something totally different, but not. So we're going to get into that and more with Timothy R. Johnson, son of a convicted serial killer, and whose mom is still in prison after 40 years. That and more when we return. Don't you go away.
Welcome to the Blattman Health and Wellness Center. In order for your fingers to do this really fast, you have to hold your wrist really still. We should be talking about how do we make pain go away.
All right, we're back. Thank you for sticking around. And if you've just joined us, stay put. We're going to get our guests back in just a moment. Timothy R. Johnson, whose father was executed some years back for, now we know, having been connected to over 40 homicides, and his mother still serving a prison sentence. Has been 40 years. Tim is a philanthropist and author, a very successful entrepreneur, and just an overall giving person. And I want to say, before we get back into the show, thank you to my guests for this week. Intention pin. And I got mine just last week, which says, I had it inscribed with "through me, not from me," which is what I believe about all my content. And also to Dr. Hal Blattman of Blattman Health and Wellness Centers in Cincinnati, Ohio, as well as New York City, New York. Thank you. He has a wonderful workshop coming up about how to get pain out of your life holistically, ditch the pills, and look at all these other holistic and organic ways to take your health to the next level and tell pain bye-bye. So thank you to both of my sponsors. Here we go. Tim, welcome back. Before we went to break, we were talking about a lot of things, but I wanted to get into, tell us, because I'm certain it's happened, because it happened with me. Just, I mean, especially after the Goldcast video where they were talking about the 22 mothers. People, I heard through people, and one person did say it straight to my face. I got to say that. Well, the only reason you're becoming more and more successful is because you have that woe is me story of having had 22 mothers, trying to use your story against you in a way. And I imagine, have you ever had that happen where somebody tried to say he's sensationalizing something or blowing it out of proportion, or I don't believe? Tell us about what that's like.
You know, it's opinion versus advice, right? Listen, if I'm looking at somebody and they want to tell me, they can go look it up online. It's all there.
There you go.
Right? It's easy. Look up Roger Dale Stafford, and that was my real name when I was born. You can't sensationalize it when it was all over the news. You know, and here's the thing. Like you said, we were talking earlier about being an asshole. No, I just got standards. I don't let professional time killers in my life because, I mean, that's what we call PTK audits, right? If you go through your life and they say you are the 5 people you hang out with, then look at how many of them start with the conversation with the problem is, the challenge is, the issue is. They're created. The minute you say the challenge is, what do you create for yourself, Lauren? You create the challenge.
The challenge.
Right. We don't have challenges in America. We have hiccups. Okay. The biggest thing, you know, for example, one of the biggest things that I even teach my students and I do for myself is, you ever notice when you really get frustrated with something that you're working at is probably because you're not good at it?
Right. It's that learning curve.
Learning curve. But here's the thing. Does it financially make sense if you're making $50 an hour and it's 10,000 hours to master something? That means that deal is going to cost you $5 million.
Right.
One of the reasons I stopped, one of the things with Lori, I just stopped one day. We were going to help my uncle do his house, and I stopped in and put a front door in. She said, you're literally was, I go to the door, was going to fix it, and this janky 1940s door. I'm like, no, we'll just put a new door in.
Janky.
Right? And just hit it and get it, right? Because when you serve givers give back. Okay. And that was that thing that day that you jumped my ass. I needed it. Like, we talk about it. You weren't being an asshole. You were just holding me to a standard that I could either accept or I could not accept. Right? Here's the thing. We teach people how to treat us.
Yes.
Okay. So the biggest thing, for example, Lori will tell you on hers that I came in and fixed her laundry room. I did this. She's also, but here's the thing. She's so dynamic in the way that she writes. I found somebody, and she tries to tell me that I love to write. I hate writing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? To the point she's like, just do an audible on a voicemail and send it to me. I'm like, great. That's awesome. That's what I'm going to do. When we don't work on things we're good at, and if we are the 5 people we hang out with, why does it work for Fortune 500 companies? Why do they have a board of directors, each person being specifically badass at what they do? Then why would we choose to work on things we're not? Right. I don't think we're stupid for doing that. I think you're some of the most educated minds in the world. For example, we were at James Dentley's event, and, we were listening to Jeff Hoffman, remember? And the guy's like, oh, I was just in the airport. And it was like common sense. It's just common sense isn't so common anymore.
No, that's what my grandmother used to say. Is there really such a thing? If so, how come more people aren't using it? Common sense isn't common at all.
Well, a kid doesn't have ADD if they can play video games for 8 straight hours. They just don't give a shit about what you're talking about. They just don't. Okay. For example, some of the people in the industry that say they're asshole, that's not my experience. Okay. I've seen you, right, literally got jumped my ass. But when I really sat back, was it for the good? Right? How many kids did we end up helping more because you stood up and got in my face about it? Okay. But there's some people that love you enough, but there's going to be some people that hate you for that same thing.
Right.
And you know what? After I did it, I had to put my tail between my legs. Okay. In the same way. You know what I mean? And part of that is dropping my ego. I told you, I just buried one of my people, and, I ended up going to Nashville working on part of the unemployable stuff. And I'm down there and I'm like, my egos, I don't need their help. That's bullshit. That was actually just the opposite. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We're sitting at dinner and Lori says, you have one of the less egos of anybody I know. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Right. But I had to drop my ego in order to spend time and take some advice from people that I give advice to sometimes. And sometimes you just, in your mind, I was, I buried one of my guys, didn't know I would take it so hard.
Yeah.
And it was just, but he'd worked for me for almost a decade. And just having a little, my wife went to work with some of her friends. I went down to work on the book Unemployable. And it was interesting because I asked Lori out for dinner one day, and starting to hear her listen, she would take my own story and turn around to be better. I'm like, that's pretty badass. If she's good enough for Myron Golden and Dan Henry and some of these other badass people, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm just going to let her do it. And then she said, hey, we should partner on this thing. I'm like, great. That means you're first. Your name's first, my name's second, because you're doing 90% of the work. Okay. And then we'll build up from that. And, part of, the dynamic of being part with you and Jason and some of that was these kids we're so labeled when we're in homes, man. Like, you're this and you're that. Like, fuck you.
Right.
Right. Sorry, if you don't like the way that I sound, get off the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't call me. I'm good.
Let me just, I'm so glad. I thank you for bringing that up, because, that's something that I almost didn't understand, that standing up, that underdog mentality like you experienced. But you know why that was, Tim? Because I'll never forget, and God made sure I'd never forget it, because it is seared into it is a cellular memory. It really, really is. at the first Power of We, an entire city, a town here in Illinois, the hardest hit area. The first place I went, the one that I had the most meetings with, invested more time in, they dropped the ball. You know, we had 112 kids waiting to come to the Stan Mansion from Inglewood, Illinois. Do you remember me talking about that? And then they didn't have buses, and then we chartered. Jason got everybody up. We had the money to charter, and then at the last minute, the kids couldn't come because they didn't have any chaperones.
Right. And
the kids were at the barbershop waiting to get picked up and everything. And we pulled those chairs and stacked them in the back kitchen area where your food came in. Yep. And I hated going in there because every time I went in there, I was automatically drawn to those 3 stacks of chairs. And I was like, where are those kids? What if something happens to one of them today when they should have had their butt in a chair, one of these chairs sitting out here getting their lives changed and changing our lives. Right. And so I promised myself then and there, because, you know, I knew I should have been asking questions and pushing certain things with these powers that be, because something didn't feel right. Something always felt like it was missing, but I didn't want to rock the boat. So, you know, I didn't open my mouth, and I said never again. Huh?
You rocked mine.
Because I learned from that experience, you know.
No, brother, if you didn't have the balls, seriously, to step up because of that memory, listen, a real mentor isn't someone that's going to be nice to you all the time. They're going to make you level up.
Yeah.
Right? The reason a lot of people, you can go work for somebody and work their dreams, or you can start to build your own. Okay? Lori is not always the nicest person when it comes to doing books, because she wants the reader to never put it down. She doesn't level down for anybody. She doesn't care. Like if you don't know her, go find her on Facebook. Like, she's badass.
You know, a lot of people get and I get it. I know what she goes through because I go through. When people go to my web, that's why my website for when you go on the tab for coaching now, there's 10 red X's. If you are not willing to have your dream stand right after your need to breathe, then you probably shouldn't even call me. If you cannot, take constructive criticism or wrap your mind around that you might end up hating me one day while we're in a coaching session, but love me when we come back, then you need to keep it moving. And the thing about it is, there's a difference. Tell me what you think about this. There's a difference between standing your ground, saying, I'm not going to budge on what I know to be true. It's not on my thumb drive. It's on my personal, my spiritual, my mental hard drive. So if you can't deal with that, keep it moving. Tell us what you feel about how people get that confused, ego and commitment.
Well, I call it standard, right?
Standard.
Listen, you believe in people's dreams more than they do.
My mom told me that on her deathbed. That's exactly what she said.
Right. And you stepped up that day. You're like, listen, right? For example, I did one to one of my students. And you remember Rachel, who's a friend of ours, got pissed at me about it. But I just got a letter that I have right here that he sent me and he says, dude, thank you for helping me during my darkest times. That tough love is what
this?
Through one of my students. And he said, dude, thank you. Like, I needed that kick in the pants.
Yeah.
He was financial pressures and different things he was doing to his family. And I'm like, dude, you're a fucking time rapist. I was mean, but I wanted he could do it. I knew he could do it. Like, I'm not settling for you in mediocrity. I don't need a cheerleader. I don't want cheerleaders in my life. You're not a cheerleader in my life.
Right.
If you think I need to fucking hear it, you're not afraid to say it.
I get it. Tell us, I want to get into this book. Okay. First of all, the title, Unemployable. How did you come to that? Because it's not what you think.
I didn't come to it. That's the thing. Lori did.
Why that title?
I don't know. We were talking in some of our conversations during coaching and just talking. She's like, happily unemployable. I'm like,
okay. I've heard someone else say that. On my mastermind, Cecilia Faye Morris said that the other day. She goes, and I am unconditionally, happily unemployable.
Right. Listen, my compound that I have, like when James Dentley came out here, I'm like, I have a gas station, I have a sawmill, I have my wood shop. No, that's not anybody else's dream but mine. It's a full-time thing to keep all that up, but I love it. It's for me.
And you know what? When you say compound, just let me tell y'all out there, because when I was there, I can't even explain it to people. I tried to explain it to my husband, Brian. He said, well, what was it like? I said, well, it's almost like a big Menards or Home Depot or something in all these different buildings, interconnected, all wrapped around with fencing. With just, I'll never forget that spot where you took me, where there were all those nuts and bolts and everything was in a cubby hole, or it was like a big warehouse. Hundreds of dishwashers in one place, hundreds of refrigerators. Because I guess, tell people what you do.
Well, I'm a real estate investor and I do a lot of construction. So I'm able to buy, I got the nickname King of Cheap being on national TV and local TV by saving money. Like when James came, he came and James like, why don't you tell anybody you have all this? Why? For what? Why do I need to? Here's the thing.
Why do you think someone would ask you that?
Well, James is just like, dude, if I'd have known this, I'm like, I don't need people to know. Like, this is nothing but for me. Like, I have an entire hardware store in my basement. You remember that?
Yeah.
But see, there's 3 investments in your life. There's time, money, and change, right? What's the most important?
Time.
Time's mathematical, brother.
Sure is.
Right?
That's the only thing we're in competition with, not each other. We're in competition with time.
Right. But here's the thing. If you make 50 grand a year and you want to make 100, you got to change your time habits.
That's right.
Right. All my stuff is organized because it affects my time.
I mean, down to the most minute bolt.
I understand. But here's the thing. A lot of those things we were able to pick up for pennies on the dollar. So the boys and I can use it. Okay. There's always deals. It's whether or not you look for it. Okay. Like I didn't want to write my book. That's why I got Lori. And then one day she asked me, hey, do you want a partner? I'm like, duh. Like I suck at writing. Like if you get an email from me, I'm just not good at it. So I don't try to do things I'm not good at.
See, and you know what? That point right there, so many people want to share their story, want to write a book, and the ones who need to usually are the ones who don't want to do it. And all the ones who want to put something out there, it's all about, look at me, look at me, look at me. Oh, I wrote a book, I wrote a book, I wrote a book. And then they end up with boxes of them in their basements or in their garages or attics.
Right.
And instead of them being in the hands of people who can absorb that content, because our content comes to us so that it can make its way through us to the world. We're a whistle stop.
In Africa, I have a big thing that's back there for me. You know, I did it with 2 other brothers that a lot of people in the industry call an asshole. Not my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's some of the total top dogs that I know. We haven't done business, but we do some things once a year. We did one last year. We did it this year, giving water to 1,500 families.
That's awesome.
That's just for me, though. I don't care. And I have it back there to remind me, right, to do it. And then now they want to do schools because kids in America, not that we don't have challenges here, but just giving fresh water over there is just like something that we take for granted every single day, right? You just like, okay. But the dynamic, you know, the fish tank in the back, the fish tank is one of my students. They come in every week and clean it. I love my fish tanks. It's soothing, right? And
do you still, we got like 4 minutes and I want to ask you this. Do you have a relationship with your mother who's on her 40th year in prison? Do you visit her? Nothing at all? Do you think you would need or want to reach out to her before she?
I need to, yeah, because we got in an all-out war years ago, and as I get older, it's getting harder to get into those things, and it was always a lie, right? And I just wanted to know the truth, and finding my real family, like I said, was able to bring, and just between you and I, big closure.
And how old is your mom? Can I ask?
That's a good question, actually. 60 maybe.
So she was in her 20s when she went to prison.
Yeah. She was young.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So the book, people can find it if they head over to timothyrjohnson.com.
If you go to unemployable.book.com.
Okay, so they can't get it here.
No, they can't get it here, but if they go to unemployable.book.com.
Okay, unemployable, I got to spell stuff out loud.
Don't ask. That's what I got Lori for.
Unemployable.com. Okay. So I want you guys to get over unemployable.com, unemployablebook.com. Okay. I got to add book to it.
Right.
And what would you like people to get from reading this book?
Here's the thing. It's perspective. You're going to find out a lot of the things that we all go through. Here's the thing. You may think my life was bad, but it's perspective. The book that's going to come out is, how Lori was able to build a 6-figure business during one of the roughest, as what people say is the roughest. Okay. And just the mind shift of just changing your perspective. If you change your perspective and you change the people you hang out with, right? And you serve them and they serve you. Here's the thing. If people don't serve you back, get rid of them. Bye. Okay. And part of the book is going to be some of the stories and just some of the lessons I learned, like some of the lessons I learned from 33 sisters and 14 foster homes, right? Some were one day, some were, just different things that I learned. Like one of my mentors said, listen, if you can swing drugs, you can swing business.
Right.
Right. And you make
right.
And you won't go to jail and you make a lot more money. Right.
Well, I want everybody to get over to timothyrjohnson.com and also unemployablebook.com. Check out everything he's got going on. I want you to know this. If you're planning a virtual event or when the world opens back up for full access, when we have events in person again, you're looking for a speaker unlike any other. I highly recommend the man on the screen, other than myself, Timothy R. Johnson, because you're going to get something that people need to hear. You're going to get stuff that people sometimes are a little resistant to hear. But you're going to get what I said, a unique experience from a unique person. So, Tim, I want to thank you so much. It's always a joy. It's a pleasure. I love you. I love what you do. Keep doing it. You are a great example of being the blessing that you want to see in the world. And you've been a great impact and influence on my life. So thank you so much. Okay. For the rest of you guys, get out there and do what we do. Change the world by changing yourself. Join me tomorrow morning. My guest will be Charlene Jones. She's a recording artist, and she's going to actually perform for us live. And we're going to hear something from her new album tomorrow. And wow, what a story. Wait till you hear this girl's story. She's from Benton Harbor, Michigan, and I've known her for some years. She sang on my album. And I just love her to death. So that's Charlene Jones tomorrow morning. God willing, I'll meet you out on the front porch for our next installment of Bathrobe Moments. Tim, I love you, man. Get out there and keep doing what you're doing. You guys do the same. I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'll see you. Get out there and change somebody. Start with yourself. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time.
How expensive do I have to be?
Need I spell it out before you get it, baby?
Show me your soul.
And honey, I'll show